Drought, war, and rising food prices have doubled the number of families facing malnutrition. You can help. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646.
Is this the Tiger?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
LeBron sank a free throw with 1.9 seconds left to help the Lakers beat Houston by 1 at Crypto.com. LeBron had 37 points and 8 assists in 40 minutes. The Clippers are in action tonight at San Antonio. They get their first look at rookie sensation Victor Wembanyama. The Rams got a break. Seattle kicker Jason Myers missed a 55-yard field goal with 3 seconds left. The miss allowed the Rams to hold on for a 1-point win. The Rams are 3-1 in the NFC West. More tough times for the Chargers. They had a 4-point lead at Green Bay with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but couldn't hold it. They lose by 3. The Chargers gave up 322 passing yards. Chargers coach Brandon Staley was beefing with reporters after the game because they asked him about his struggling defense. I would have been asking the same thing. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit TheTavisSmileyShow.com. That's TheTavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast of this program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, the fight for race and gender equality in America has many well-known figures, to be sure, and yet some heroes and sheroes of the struggle remain relatively obscure to most of us. Pauli Murray inspired Thurgood Marshall, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You may not know the name Pauli Murray, but you certainly live in her legacy, whether you know it or not. Beyond being first in her class at Howard University Law School, and the only woman, I might add, the first African-American to earn a JSD, that's a PhD essentially, from Yale Law, co-founder of NOW, the National Organization of Women, and the first African-American woman to be ordained as an Episcopal priest. Beyond all that, who was Pauli Murray? Glad you asked. Rosita Stevens-Holsey is keeper of the flame for her auntie and co-author of the book Pauli Murray, The Life of a Pioneering Feminist and Civil Rights Activist, and she joins us today in hour 2 on Pauli Murray's birthday, no less. I should mention there's also a documentary streaming right now on Amazon Prime called My Name is Pauli Murray. We look forward to unveiling this hidden figure for you today in hour 2. In our third hour,
there will be no love that's dying here. The bird that flew in through my window simply lost his way. He broke his wings, I helped him heal, and then he flew away. Well, the death of love is everywhere, but I won't let it be. There will be no love that's dying here for me. No, there will be no love that's dying for me. There will be no love that's dying for you and me. Oh, there will be no love dying here. No, not for me. There will be no love that's dying here. No, there will be no love that's dying here. No, 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 no. There will be no love dying for me.
I love me some Gregory Porter. That's why I didn't step on it, right? Class, elegance, sophistication. I always feel blessed when he and I have the chance to reconnect once again. Gregory Porter has just released his first ever Christmas album titled Christmas Wish. We'll play a few tracks for you and have, as usual, I suspect, a deep dialogue about music and life when Gregory Porter joins us today in hour 3. In this first hour today, where have all the Democrats gone? Our politics have always been divisive, but the style and depth of that division has been more than intense, I think it's fair to say, over the past decade. For a conversation right now about the polarization and paralysis of American politics, I am pleased to be joined by John B. Judas and Rui Teixeira on Tavis Smiley. John, how are you today, sir?
Good.
Good. That was nice and simple and monosyllabic. You got to do better than that for the next hour, brother. Those one-syllable answers, those one-word answers ain't going to work. Let's try it again. John, how are you today, sir?
I'm just fine.
That's 3 words, a little bit better. All right, let's try.
Up to 3 words, Tavis.
Yeah, I know. Let's try Rui. Rui, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Tavis. Thanks for having us. Looking forward to this conversation.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Rui. Now I know who to work with for the next 45 minutes. Glad to have you both on. Just teasing, but it's going to be an hour, and we got a lot to cover. And I want to make sure that you understand, John and Rui, this is not your typical 7-minute conversation. We got an hour, and we do it that way deliberately and unapologetically to really kind of tease out all that we need to learn from the two of you about the work you've done, specifically about this book, Where Have All the Democrats Gone? Speaking of Democrats, before we jump into our conversation, let me just do this right. Well, let me mess back. I'm watching my clock. Let me just tell you where I want to go when we come forward, and then we will jump right into this conversation for the next hour, for the next 45, 50 minutes or so. So, John and Rui, I want to ask in a moment their thoughts on two big Democrats today. One who is having a birthday, a guy named Joe Biden, turns 81 today, and another who passed away yesterday, Rosalynn Carter. Former First Lady, passed away at age 96. Many of us were, I think, sitting around waiting for, well, not sitting around waiting, but we were told that former President Jimmy Carter was in hospice, and many of us thought he'd be gone by now. He's stubborn. He's holding on, and I know that because I've interviewed him many, many times over the course of my career. But his wife, Rosalynn, together almost 80 years. Good Lord. Passed away, of course, yesterday at the age of 96 at their home in Plains. And so we'll get both of their thoughts on the former First Lady, Rosalynn Carter, passing away yesterday, and Joe Biden celebrating an 81st birthday today and all that means. So it's going to be a great hour, and I'm looking forward to talking to John and Rui as we move forward. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfection like zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat in the lag since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection consistent with the CHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambiance temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition load, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a whole lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. Today I spoke with Tatiana, a community manager for JP Morgan Chase.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Tatiana Roberts. I am a community manager for JP Morgan Chase. I have to honestly say that this has been the most fulfilling position that I've ever had, where I get to give back to the community because I saw my mom's struggles. That's really what fuels what I do to make sure that that the community has all the access to the resources that my mother didn't have.
So for the mother who's in business, what are 3 quick tips you can give to ensure that they're on the right path to accessing financial support from a bank like Chase?
Say number 1, just make sure that you're checking your credit on a consistent basis and taking action to either fix your credit, maintain your credit, or rebuild your credit. The second thing would be budget. I know that B word is kind of like ugly for, right? A lot of people don't like that B word, but it has to be done. We need to tell our money where to go. The last thing is to build a network of supporters that are going to lift you up.
The community building here in Crenshaw is that network. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley in conversation with the authors of the book, Where Have All the Democrats Gone? Rui Teixeira and John B. Judas are our guests in this first hour today. Rui, let me start with you before I jump into the text and all the tentacles that offshoot what you all have written. Your thoughts, and then we'll go to John on the passing of Rosalynn Carter. We'll get to Joe Biden's birthday in a moment, but let's start with Rosalynn Carter and her passing away yesterday at the age of 96. Your thoughts about that?
Well, of course, R.I.P. I mean, I've always, in a way, it's harking back to a different era, thinking about the Carters, about Jimmy Carter and Rosalynn Carter. We have a lot of criticisms of Carter in our book in terms of some of his economic policies, but he was a stand-up guy, and I think his post-presidency was remarkable. And, of course, it involved his wife as well in terms of basically they just tried to do good with for people. They kept a low profile. They worked hard. They didn't try to capitalize economically on their presidency, Carter's presidency. And, that's in contrast, I think, with some of our other recent presidents who've, sort of cashed in and like to rub elbows with the rich, famous, and powerful. So I always admired that about the Carters. So as I say, R.I.P. For Rosalynn.
I want to come back to 2 things you said a moment ago, Rui. One is this notion of cashing in. We'll come to that in just a second here. But the other thing, since you mentioned the Clintons, I was thinking about this yesterday when the news broke that she'd made her transition. Before the Clintons offered themselves up as a couple to sort of help run the country, Rosalynn and Jimmy Carter were a pair. She didn't have a policy role in the way that Hillary Clinton did, but they really were a tandem. When you got one, you got two essentially for the price of one. Again, the criticisms in your text of the Carter administration notwithstanding, they really were the original Clintons in terms of working together as a tandem. Again, two for the price of one, Rui.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, and I think it was admirable. And obviously, Rosalind, by working with Jimmy Carter, wasn't trying to set herself up for being another President Carter. So that clearly was not the case with Hillary and Bill, where it was Hillary Clinton's ambitions were always massively clear to pretty much everybody.
Yep. And to your point about cashing in, it's one of the criticisms I've had of late of Barack Obama. It seems to me that they are intent on cashing in, and I hope that once his library is built, that he will start to focus more on his legacy. But all of these deals with Netflix and movies and books and all the like, clearly they're cashing in, and I ain't mad at them. I'm like Mary J. and Jay-Z. I ain't knocking no hustle. But it's a far cry from what Jimmy Carter and Rosalind did when they left the White House, and it earned him the Nobel Peace Prize. Of course, Obama got that while he was president. We could debate that for hours. We won't. But the point is, it does raise some serious questions about the way that you cement your legacy. And at the moment, I'm not a fan of the way the Obamas are going about this. It just seems like it's just a cash in, as I said, for book deals and Netflix deals and everything else. They come running to Hollywood. But that's not the way I think a post-presidency ought to be. You ought to use it to cement whatever good work you did do. And if you assume that the Obamas are going to live a long time, then what did you not accomplish while you were in the White House that you can use the power of the presidency, the power of that platform? What good in the world can you still do given all of the goodwill that you have built up? And it can't be running to Hollywood to make movies. There are enough people doing that already. So I hear your point about former presidents cashing in. That's just my read. Since you mentioned it, Rui, give me more of your take on it.
Well, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Tavis. I mean, I'm pretty disappointed with the Obamas. I mean, I did like Barack Obama in some ways. Again, we have a lot of criticisms of him in our book, but I do think he had a lot of messages that were very important. I think he was an incredibly charismatic and interesting figure, and there was a lot of things he tried to do during his presidency that, as you say, were left incomplete or needed to be corrected or whatever. And I do have the feeling he's just sort of checked out. I mean, he mostly seems to be busy, as you say, making deals, cashing in, as we said. And basically rubbing elbows with the rich, famous, and powerful.
Yep.
He's like a brand.
Yeah.
And he's leveraging that. And I thought he'd be more active in a sort of socio-political sense, and sort of in less of a Hollywood sense.
Yep.
That is disappointing.
Yeah, I think the more critique he gets for that, I think he'll get on the right foot, as James Brown would say, and get on the good foot. He's still young, he's energetic, and he and Michelle, we hope and pray, have a lot of years in front of them. He did some good work as president. I wanted to see him build on that, and at the moment, we've seen no evidence of that. But again, there's still time. Maybe once the library is built, he'll start to focus more on the social-political work that you referenced a moment ago. John, your thoughts? We ain't got to Biden yet. We'll get there. But your thoughts on Rosalind Carter passing away yesterday?
Same as Rui. The Habitat for Humanity was a big deal. That was Carter's, and I think she was as active in that as Jimmy Carter. Their legacy is it's an excellent one. I think it starts with Harry Truman, who after he becomes president goes back to Independence, Missouri, and you have a normal life. But since then, I mean, the president has been much different.
Yeah. What do you to your point about Harry Truman going back to independence, where it all started for him? What do you make of the fact that after being in the White House and all that that notoriety, all the notoriety that comes with that, they went right back to planes when they left the White House, John?
Well, it's the same. I mean, I think that's the Harry Truman model of being of going back and being an ordinary American, and it was remarkably commendable. And in addition to that, the Carters did, as you say, I think they did stuff that continued what they hadn't done or what they had only done partially as president. And I'm thinking of Jimmy Carter too in the Middle East and his writing on on Israel and Camp David. His criticisms of Israel were condemned wildly at the time, and now are pretty much become standard issue within Israel itself by critics of the Netanyahu government. So it's again, I think that they set the standard for ex-presidents and first ladies.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I was watching a film not long ago, and there's a great line in the movie that says, "If you live long enough, you become either the hero or the villain." Just think about that. If you live long enough, you either become the hero or the villain, and that can be said of Jimmy Carter. John makes a powerful point now. I remember interviewing President Carter when he wrote that book and did an essay criticizing Israel, and he called what they were doing in Palestine apartheid. He was roundly and wildly criticized. He took a lot of heat. I mean, I think post-presidency, he took more heat for that comment than anything he said since then, since being in the White House, calling this an apartheid state, comparing it to South Africa. And he and I had a deep and just a brilliant conversation, I think, listening to him unpack why he called it apartheid and why he stood in his truth. He stood firm. Again, he caught a lot of hell, but Jimmy Carter did not back down off that comment about apartheid. And to your point, John, now you got protests all around the globe and people in this country pushing President Biden on what they see as apartheid, what they see as the world. Somebody called it the world's largest open air prison. And the president, as I've said for days now, can only go so much longer. He and his administration, he and Secretary of State Blinken can only go so much longer without saying ceasefire or de-escalation. But the world, in many respects, to your point, is now right where Jimmy Carter was then. So in that regard, you're right. He was on point then, and I think the world is finally starting to catch up. There'll be a lot more, of course, said about. I should mention, Rui, to a point you made earlier. I once asked Jimmy Carter in one of our conversations whether or not he thought he was the best ex-president we'd ever had, and he was none too happy with the question. He smiled at me and and he responded and at some point when he makes his transition, that's all in the Lord's hands. We have no control over that. We thought he was going to go first, and Rosalind is gone. But at the appropriate time, I'll dig into the vault to pull out the best of my Jimmy Carter conversations, assuming that I outlived Jimmy Carter. One never knows how these things work. But that was a fascinating conversation. His response was pretty amazing when I asked him whether he thought he was the best ex-president we'd ever had. But I'll save that for the appropriate time. Today we focus on the life and legacy, the great work of Rosalind Carter. And I always lean on that because Jimmy Carter, he here would tell you in a heartbeat, it's not Rosalind. People call her Rosalind all the time. That's not how she pronounced it.
Sorry.
No. I'm just saying to the audience, not to you, to the audience. It's Rosalind. And he will tell you that. He says, Tavis, like a rose. I learned that the first time I got it wrong, and I never got it wrong again. So it is not Rosalind Carter. It's Rosalind Carter. That's how she pronounced it, and that's how the family pronounced it. And so, again, our thoughts and prayers to the family of Jimmy and Rosalind Carter on the passing of the former First Lady yesterday at the age of 96. Let me move now from commemorating a life well lived to a life that is ongoing. A life that now is celebrating 81 years. It's a strange sort of moment to be commemorating the passing of a former First Lady, a Democrat, and at the same time celebrating the 81st birthday of Joe Biden. I don't need to color this question at all because there's all kinds of commentary. I've never seen anybody, Rui, have a birthday and have more conversation about how old they are rather than just celebrating the fact that they lived another year. So I don't need to color it much more. Your thoughts on Joe Biden today turning 81, Rui, and what that means politically?
Well, let's just put it this way. It's not a point in his favor. I mean, we know from the polling data and talking to like any American you'd wind up talking to on the street, there's a super widespread perception he's just too old for the job, and that's now. I mean, he's got 4 more years. Just get older. Mm-hmm. And I think people are really leery about that. They know the presidency is a demanding job. They know there's a lot to be done. They know, pretty aware at this point, his schedule is being very carefully managed. When he appears in public and talks, he seems to lose the thread frequently, and he just seems not very forceful. and not with it in the way they expect a president to be. And so they're worried about it, and it's a real problem for him politically. We know that even though Trump is only 3-4 years younger, whatever, I mean, he's viewed much more positively in terms of his age than Biden is, and that's because Trump, as old as he is, still appears vigorous, assertive, et cetera, and that makes a difference. And this is on top of all the other problems Biden and his administration have. Even if he wasn't 81, he'd probably still be in a fair amount of hot water, given what people feel about the economy, about immigration and crime, about a lot of other things they're just not happy with in terms of how the administration has gone. So he'd be in a bit of a pickle anyway. But you put his age on top of that, and it's it's not looking like it's going to be a very easy re-election campaign. That's for damn sure.
Yep. I said this in conversation the other day, Rui. I want to just get your temperature on it right quick here. I don't think it's just that he's old, because to your point, Donald Trump ain't a spring chicken either. And there are all kinds of folk who are old. I mean, look, Jimmy Carter is 99. Rosalind Carter lived to be 96, and they stayed active. And literally until the last couple of years, they were pretty active. So it's not just about Jimmy Carter was still building houses in his 90s. So it's not just about being old. Right. It's about not appearing to be strong and virile. To your point, losing the thread from time to time. We never saw Jimmy Carter do that, even into his 90s. So I always want to make this point. It's not about being old. I don't want to bag on people who are old, and I know you weren't doing that. But it's that he doesn't appear strong at his age. And to your point, we know the work that needs to be done in the second term. We know all that's going on in the world. And so I think there's a distinction between just being old and not just appearing to be strong, Rui.
Yeah. There's old, and then there's old. I mean, I think people personally people who are 80 or 81 or 82 or whatever, who are like, they're totally with it. They're, they're vigorous, they're strong, they're assertive. They're just older than most people. But that's not a big deal. But when you see someone who's that age, who seems to be on this sort of declining trajectory and sort of has all these tells about how they're not quite, they've lost not just a mile off their fastball, but like 10 miles off their fastball, right? I mean, people have seen that as well. So they look at Biden and they read into that what they know about, how some people do decline fairly rapidly in their 80s, and they're not too happy about it.
Yep. John, I got about 2 minutes now, and then we'll come forward and continue on the other side. But let me just do this right quick and get your initial take on this, John, and we'll continue, as I said, when we come forward. So David Axelrod, we mentioned Barack Obama earlier. We all know that David Axelrod, you see him on CNN all the time. Axelrod ran Obama's campaign. He ran a brilliant campaign. I've never in my lifetime seen a campaign run more brilliantly than the Obama campaign was run the first time around. And Axelrod did an amazing job running that campaign. Always want to give him his props for that. That said, so Maureen Dowd had a piece yesterday in the New York Times you may have seen. It was pretty fascinating. So David Axelrod, some days ago, said that Biden has done a wonderful job, did an honorable job in his first term. This is David Axelrod now, saying that he ought to step aside, let somebody else be the nominee, let some younger persons, put their name in the hat, and just walk away a hero. That's David Axelrod. You've done a great job. You brought the country back from the brink. Economically and in terms of policy, you've done a pretty amazing job, whether people feel it or not, to Rui's point. You've done a pretty amazing job. You've reestablished our credibility around the globe. The damage that many thought that Trump had done that was irreparable, Joe Biden has shown you can pull some of that back. So you've done an amazing job, and now it's time to leave honorably, leave a hero, walk away, let somebody else be the nominee. That's David Axelrod, who was involved in getting Joe Biden to be the running mate with Barack Obama. So he has no hate for Joe Biden. He just believes that now he needs to step aside, and he believes, and this is, again, quoting from Maureen Dowd's piece yesterday in the New York Times, that at best, Biden has a 50-50 chance of winning, and maybe less than that. That's David Axelrod yesterday to Maureen Dowd in her piece. The president responded on the eve of his birthday by calling David Axelrod a prick. That's what Joe Biden called David Axelrod yesterday. So that's Axelrod's gift. The president responds in that regard. And Maureen had a lot to say about it, again, in her piece yesterday. When we come forward, given that the president's turning 81 today, and given that there are people at the level of David Axelrod now who was involved, again, in getting him on the ticket to run with Obama, saying it's time to step aside and leave a hero on your 81st birthday. We'll see what John B. Judas has to say about that, and then we'll talk about their book, of course, Where have all the Democrats gone? You're listening to John B. Judas and Rui Teixeira on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former First Lady Rosalind Carter will be laid to rest next week. She passed away at the age of 96 Sunday afternoon after being diagnosed with dementia in March. The public will be able to pay their respects as she lies in repose at the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library and Museum in Atlanta, Georgia, 1 week from today. A private funeral service will be held November 29th at the Carter family residence in Plains. Bill Cosby is being hit with another sexual assault lawsuit. Actress and former writer Joan Tarshish filed a suit over the weekend claiming the African-American comedian drugged and assaulted her on 2 different occasions back in the 70s. The lawsuit alleges assault, battery, emotional distress, and false imprisonment. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Drought, war, and rising food prices have doubled the number of families facing malnutrition. You can help. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for expensive professionals. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure and a screwdriver, you can install our custom blinds and save big. Plus, we guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron sank a free throw with 1.9 seconds left to help the Lakers beat Houston by 1 at Crypto.com. LeBron had 37 points and 8 assists in 40 minutes. The Clippers are in action tonight at San Antonio. They get their first look at rookie sensation Victor Wembanyama. The Rams got a break. Seattle kicker Jason Myers missed a 55-yard field goal with 3 seconds left. The miss allowed the Rams to hold on for a 1-point win. The Rams are 3-1 in the NFC West. More tough times for the Chargers. They had a 4-point lead at Green Bay with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but couldn't hold it. They lose by 3. The Chargers gave up 322 passing yards. Chargers coach Brandon Staley was beefing with reporters after the game because they asked him about his struggling defense. I would have been asking the same thing. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of This Light of Ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This Light of Ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This Light of Ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and John B. Judas and Rui Teixeira, who are co-authors of the book, Where Have All the Democrats Gone? Speaking of where all the Democrats gone, David Axelrod, who ran Obama's campaign and got him elected, believes that Joe Biden ought to be gone from the White House. He has done his job. He's served honorably. He has stewarded the economy well. Again, restored our good name around the globe, although not so much right now with the way that people are processing what the Biden administration is doing in the Middle East. So maybe the good name is getting tarnished just a bit more at the moment. But basically done a good job. And David Axelrod says that he ought to just ride into the sunset, leave the White House now, let someone younger have this job, leave a hero, and go down in the books as having done his job. And Joe Biden is hearing none of it. As I said earlier, in response to David Axelrod saying he ought to step aside, he called him a prick. That's what the president said. And Maureen Dowd had a fascinating piece about this yesterday. She spoke to David Axelrod for her Sunday column in the New York Times. You should read it to get more backstory on it. All that said, though, the president's turning 81 today. In case you've just tuned in and haven't heard, I'm sure you have by now. We lost former First Lady Rosalind Carter yesterday at the age of 96. So on the one hand, it's a sad day, and maybe not so sad. She lived a long and wonderful life. We're certainly celebrating, commemorating her life and legacy. But at the same time, today is Biden's 81st birthday. And as I said earlier, I sort of feel bad for a guy who can't just celebrate his birthday. It is the topic du jour today. He's 81. Nobody's saying happy birthday, but they're all analyzing, as we're doing right now, what it means that he is 81. So all that said, John B. Judas, your thoughts on Axelrod and others, obviously, but Axelrod is Axelrod, saying he ought to step aside.
Well, we don't have a parliamentary system in the United States. If we did, the party would meet and they could appoint somebody new, as they did in Britain. You can get rid of Boris Johnson, and then you end up with Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak. In the United States, it doesn't work that way. We have this primary system, and it's pretty much up to Biden whether he runs or not. Now, if he were to drop out now suddenly, Democrats would be in a bad position because registration is almost up in some of the early primary states. You'd have Kamala Harris, who was a bust as a presidential candidate when she ran 4 years ago. And then you'd probably have some ambitious governors, Pritzker, Illinois, Newsom, California. Gretchen Whitmer, though, she might have a harder time raising money than the other guys. Pritzker has a lot of money himself. So, again, I don't know how it would work because, again, Kamala's reputation as a campaigner, you still can't tell, is not great. I don't know whether she would do better than Biden. So I don't think it's going to happen in any case.
Yeah. So you think it's not going to happen, that there is no surprise to come? You don't think that there's any chance that as these voices grow louder, saying he ought to step aside, as there are more and more concerns being raised today and beyond, Now that he's crossed over to 81, you don't think there's any chance at all that Joe Biden surprises us at any point and says, I'm not doing it?
I think it's a little too late. Lyndon Johnson stepped down in what was it, about March of 1968. But you had a different primary system then. You didn't have to. Hubert Humphrey didn't actually run in any primaries because they were all decided by insiders within the state who were appointed, appointed the delegates to the convention. This would be more of a mess, and my suspicion again is that Biden is in it for the long haul. That he's going to do it.
Okay. All right, Rui, let's go right into your book, Where Have All the Democrats Gone? There are a number of ways to read that title. One could read it, in a variety of ways. Unpack the title for me first and tell me more about what's inside the book.
Right. Okay. Well, when we say in the title, where have all the Democrats gone, we're not saying that obviously the Democrats have all left the room and they're not much of a party anymore and they're just losing every election. Of course, that's not true. In fact, to some extent, what we're trying to do in the book is try to explain and understand the sort of the stalemate between the two parties that we now currently see with these alternations of power, which basically elections seem to be decided a lot on the basis of which bad aspect or extreme aspect of one party is most popular and salient, and then the other party can whack them with it. So that's not exactly what we had in mind when we wrote the Emerging Democratic Majority, which came out in 2002. And we thought Democrats did have a chance of forming a dominant majority coalition that would have some durability. That seemed to come true with the 2008 election of Obama. But since then, clearly that hasn't really come to fruition. And we've seen a lot of back and forth, and we've seen famously the Trump victory in 2016. So we're trying to understand that. How did the Democrats get to the position they are where they can't seem to decisively beat the other side, despite all the other side's manifest and deep weaknesses? And that's really what we're trying to understand. And part of that is sort of tracing the evolution of Democrats as Democrats. What do they stand for? What are their priorities? What is their image among the public? Who calls the shots within the party now? We talk about a thing called the shadow party in our book, which is sort of this penumbra of nonprofit advocacy groups, foundations, intellectuals, big parts of the media, which really kind of surround and promote the Democratic Party, even though they aren't officially part of it, and which have a certain set of priorities, which are different from that of what you might call the median working class voter. And as the Democrats have moved in that direction, it's taken them away from the concerns of working class voters. And surprise, surprise, they're losing working class voters. First, it was mostly white working class voters. We saw that really come home to roost with the election of Trump in 2016. But now we're seeing non-white working class voters start to bail out from the Democrats as well. So that's kind of part of the question mark there is how did Democrats of, 40 years ago become the Democrats they are today?
And what do these changing, Rui lays out a whole lot there, John. I'm glad he did because it now allows the audience to understand the frame of the book, Where Have All the Democrats Gone? The question now, though, is how do these changing demographics impact and affect Biden's chances next year, John?
Well, they don't, in a sense, because what's going to happen next year is that I suspect the election is going to be fought on which party's most extreme elements become most repellent to voters. So in 2020, what we had was really a referendum on Trump's presidency. And a sufficient number of voters, especially the swing voters who might go the other way, disliked Trump sufficiently so that they were able to vote for Biden, who in that election was a kind of blank slate. He was an okay guy. Nobody ascribed any extreme positions to him. For instance, defund the police was not ascribed to Biden. He didn't have abolish the information and the Immigration and Customs Agency. So he sort of stood for a more normal, common man and woman voter, and people who didn't like Trump voted for him. So in 2024, the fear I think that Democrats have is that those swing voters in the middle are going to focus on Biden's age and on inflation and, maybe even funding for Ukraine, what have you, but that it won't be about Trump. Biden's hope is that it's going to be about the Trump of Stop the Steal. Trump will get convicted in one or two of these cases, and people won't want a felon in the White House. So I think that's going to be, that plus abortion is going to be the Biden appeal in 2024.
The book is called Where Have All the Democrats Gone? The authors are John B. Judas and Rui Teixeira. You're listening to them right now on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Did you know addiction to drugs like meth or cocaine is a disease and not a choice? But getting help is. If you have stimulant use disorder, you, your family, and friends may have a lot of questions, including where to start. Choose Change California can help. Make a change today and find a proven treatment option for you at choosechangeca.org.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Rui Teixeira, I could have and probably should have mentioned the subtitle of your book. It's called Where Have All the Democrats Gone? And the title itself is pretty provocative. But the subtitle is The Soul of the Party in the Age of Extremes. Where have all the Democrats gone? The soul of the party in the age of extremes. In this age of extremes, how does the party reconnect with its soul? Put another way, Dr. King used to always say that that our mission, his mission, the goal of those in the civil rights era, was to help redeem the soul of America. That was the mantra for SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, redeeming the soul of America. How do we redeem the soul of Democrats as you see it?
Well, of course, that's a very big question, Tavis. I mean, I think that one thing we're really trying to get across there is when did the Democrats do the best as a party in America? When did they have the best image? When did they move forward in the best possible way and present the most appealing face to the American public? It's when they were the party of the common man and woman, of the ordinary American, of the forgotten American. And, you know, a party that stood for universal uplift for the working and middle class.
And they aren't that now as you see it?
I don't think that's their image at this point. I think they do some good things, but I think the way things have evolved in the last 50 years or so has taken the Democrats away from that soulful kind of economic uplift for everybody, culturally moderate to conservative on social issues, respect for traditionalism in some ways, and just basically not trying to be too far out front of the American people on cultural issues. And I think the Democrats really have changed as their base has changed, as the labor movement has declined, and as the role of college-educated liberals has become increasingly strong within the party. I mean, we divide up our book into two sort of parts. One is the Great Divide, where we talk about how there's been a divorce between the fate of working-class, non-college educated people and college-educated people all over the country, and in particular, a geographical divide that's opened up between small-town, rural, and exurban America, flyover country, and the more dynamic cosmopolitan, metropolitan areas which are doing much better economically and which are dominated, again, by these educated liberals, particularly college-educated white liberals. And we feel that had a real effect on how Democrats were viewed as they increasingly throughout the last part of the 20th century became identified with a set of economic policies that a lot of working class people felt didn't benefit them around issues of trade, of financial deregulation, and generally embracing a sort of soft neoliberalism, which I think continued through the administrations of Clinton and Obama to some extent. And I think that's had an effect. And then I think we see in the 21st century, Democrats become not just a party of cultural liberalism in some ways, but even of cultural radicalism, embracing a lot of boutique causes that came out of the campuses and even a type of language that they use that is pretty foreign to a lot of working class people and doesn't help the Democrats with those voters.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Rui and John, I want to ask Rui specifically, given what he just said now, whether he thinks that labor flexing of late and flexing quite nicely, winning a lot of these fights, whether or not the flex of labor in any way aids and abets Democrats finding their soul once again. And then we'll wrap our conversation asking John about whether any party can find or know what its soul is in politics that are so paralyzed and polarized. We'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Don't miss the last days of Black Friday deals at Target. Save up to 50% on select tech and video games. Plus, save up to 40% on select small appliances, 40% off pajamas for the family, and so much more. And get free shipping when you spend $35 or use your red card at Target.com. But hurry, these Black Friday deals end Saturday. Get low prices and great Black Friday deals now, only at Target. Exclusions apply.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Got about 3 minutes left here in conversation with John B. Judas and Rui Teixeira. Enough time for two quick questions. Rui, you first. We were talking earlier about the soul of the Democratic Party, and you talked about the diminishing labor movement. Of late, though, labor has been flexing. Does that aid and abet the Democratic Party reconnecting with its soul in the years to come?
I think it's helping some, and it could help some more if we get more action along those lines. Well, let's keep in mind that despite the recent UAW victory, only 6% of private sector workers are unionized, and that doesn't look like it's changing very fast. If you want to change it fast, you've got to change the laws that govern how people can pursue unionization, which means labor law reform, which means having 60 votes in the Senate to override a filibuster. Democrats aren't even close to that, and that's one of our concerns in the book, is how uncompetitive the Democrats have become in a lot of areas of America that would actually allow them to do that. So good start, but there's a long way to go.
In a politics, John B. Judas, that is so polarized and so paralyzed, how does any party know what its soul is, much less how to connect to it? Because if you think the Democrats are having trouble finding their soul, the Republicans are really out of whack.
I think that usually it takes a crisis. I mean, it took the Great Depression to produce the New Deal majority. And it might take one again. I mean, I think both Rui and I thought that the Great Recession of 2007, 2008 and going on would help the Democrats, that Obama would be able to establish the Democrats as the party that people really trusted on the economy. But he got waylaid partly by the people he chose to run his economic policy, and also by the Republicans, and it didn't happen. And it took 5 or 6 years to get out of the recession, and the Democrats lost a lot of elections in the meantime. So yeah, it might take a big shakeup in order for the parties to turn around.
Are either of you hopeful that the Democratic Party specifically will in fact turn around in the months or years to come? You first, Rui?
Not the months. I mean, I think everything's pretty much baked in for 2024. I don't expect much to happen. I'm somewhat hopeful that in the latter part of the decade, as parties process what happened in that election and other developments, there'll be an attempt to, move back to the center in a good way and reestablish the party as the party of the common man and woman. But we'll see.
Last word, John.
Well, if Trump is elected in 2024, I think we're going to have a real crisis in the country. And out of that, things can either go much worse or much better, and we'll just have to see.
We will have to see. We will wait and see with bated breath, but we will vote. We will vote while we wait and see. The book is called Where Have All the Democrats Gone? The Soul of the Party in the Age of Extremes. The co-authors of that text are John B. Judas and Rui Teixeira, who I've been honored to have as our guest in this hour. John and Rui, all the best to you. Thank you for your time. Take care of yourself.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Tavis.
thank you.
My great delight to have you on. Up next, you're going to learn about Pauli Murray. The name may not ring a bell, but trust me, you are certainly living in her legacy. We'll talk about Pauli Murray, a hidden figure that you ought to be aware of, and it's a fascinating backstory. Amazon Prime documentary streaming right now called I Am Paulie Murray. My name, rather, is Paulie Murray. And then our third hour today, Gregory Porter joins us with his first ever Christmas album. Look forward to that conversation as well. You're listening, and we're glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.